This is Ethan Morton from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Special show here today. Just got word here just a few hours ago that Zach Edey will join us here on Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me is Joe Jackson. We do a lot of post-game shows on here with our guys Aiden Kunst and, of course, Craig Bowers, who's been with me here for a couple years. And we kind of caught an audible today and let Zach kind of call the time. And he said he'd like to do it around 4:30 Eastern time. So they're just wrapping up practice. He did warn me, it may take me a few minutes to get on. And we told him, no worries, and we'll make it work for him. So that's basically where it is. We're just going to be awaiting Zach Edey to join us here shortly. And if you would, please hit that like button on this show. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're approaching 1,000 subscribers on the year. It's been growing very fast, so we appreciate everyone's support with this. We're very excited. I'm actually nervous, because we're talking, potential national player of the year here today, Joe. We had Matt Painter on to start the year. We've had Fletcher Lawyer and Ethan Morton and David Jenkins Jr., but Zach Edey and what he means here to this program and all of the college basketball landscape. How can you not have a little bit of butterflies interviewing one of, if not the best player in the country?
Yeah, he's quite literally the biggest player we've had on, biggest person we've had on. But no, I'm really excited. Just kind of pick his brain about a few things. And I know a lot of the come up of how he got here has been told, but still even just diving into that a little bit, like you said, he's the best player in the country. I'm confident saying that, and this is going to be a really fun interview. I'm excited to just be able to keep ask him. I have some technical stuff I want to ask. I have some fun stuff I want to ask. And he's just he's Purdue basketball right now. He kind of epitomizes that pretty much everything that this program stands for. Working hard, not really giving anything at all. Nobody really believed in him coming up through the high school ranks and things like that, partially because he didn't play, obviously, for so long. But, this is his team for sure. This is, I'm confident saying he's the most dominant player in college basketball right now, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's no question about that. What we'll do today here, Joe, as the chat starts to fill up, the live chat, as we can on our end, highlight in the comments, that little star button. Let's put a star on some of the questions as they roll through and try to keep up with those. We'll try to ask Zach as many as we can if we don't already ask those questions. But we'll highlight them. If you put the star on there for me as we see them, Joe, then I'll be able to go back to them later, and maybe we'll ask a few at the end. We don't want to take up too much of Zach's time, obviously. So, but we'll do our best to ask all of them, and we appreciate everyone tuning in. While we're hanging out here, why don't we give a shout out to our guys over at Mad Mushroom, one of our partners here on Boilers in the Stands. And if you use the coupon code BITS for 15%, you get 15% off any order you make at Mad Mushrooms. So get the cheese sticks, get the best pizza in the game, the best cheese sticks in the game. Mad Mushroom. We're certainly excited to have those guys on board with us. A West Lafayette staple for Purdue basketball fans. So make sure you get your Mad Mushroom. And when you do, use the coupon code BITS for 15% off any order. So like I said before, we're just basically awaiting Zach, so we're going to take our time with this and get into it. We hope he's able to hop on here shortly. And but before we do, we were hoping that Northwestern would go down. These guys, they just won't go down. Had there was a chance that Purdue could have locked up a share of the Big Ten title before they even played on Saturday. But with Northwestern winning on Sunday over Iowa in dominating fashion, now they won by 20. This sets up for, you've got the IU game tonight against Michigan State at 8:00, and then you have Northwestern taking on Illinois on Thursday. If both of those games go Purdue's way, which would be Michigan State winning and Illinois winning, that would set up for the big rivalry Saturday night, Saturday night showdown against the Indiana Hoosiers with the chance to clinch a share of the Big Ten title. Your overall thoughts on how this Big Ten scene has broke down, Joe?
It's a mess, to be honest, the middle. I actually, while we were kind of getting going here, there's a tweet from @Muriel. It's a lot of E's and some L's. But they basically put out, Sicko CBB retweeted it. So anybody that wants to see, they can go look there on Twitter. There's a scenario where 2 through 9 all finish at 12-8. And then it's just so many tiebreakers for how the seeding works. I don't think that necessarily will happen. But yeah, it's, I think the Purdue dominance early in the Big Ten season, it's really coming to be super helpful right now. This, Purdue put them in the spot that they could have 2 to 3 losses and it was okay because they had such a lead already, whereas everybody else was already eating each other up. Even Northwestern, right? They're 1 game back in the loss column. They have 5 losses. They go at Illinois, at Maryland, home to Penn State, and at Rutgers. Like that's a tough 4-game schedule right there. Really, your easiest game is Penn State at home. And even then Penn State has, the tendency to randomly go for 15 threes or Pickett drops 35. So that's not a gimme game either. So, I'm still pretty confident in Purdue winning the Big Ten. They have a 1-game lead in the loss column. 2 home games, the only road game being at Wisconsin, which is a tough environment, but talent-wise, I think Wisconsin's pretty comfortably a bottom 5 team in the Big Ten. So I just think this last couple of weeks has really shown why Purdue being so dominant through the first 10, 11 games in conference, whatever it was, is just so helpful because now they could afford some hiccups down the stretch where other teams can't. Northwestern has to Northwestern at worst is going to have to go 3-1 probably to have a chance.
Sure.
And they have 3 road games. That's tough to do. Very
tough, but I mean, pretty shocking. And if you'd have said, looking back a few weeks ago, you wouldn't have thought Northwestern could get through the 3 games they did last week, albeit all home games for them. Yeah. But they're really playing a high level of basketball. Boo Buie is, pushing to be an all Big Ten conference player this year. So it's interesting to watch them kind of, nipping at Purdue's heels, and IU's right behind them. So, Purdue's got to close this thing out. And, we talked about it a little after they lost 3 or 4 on some of our post-game shows. Like, while it wasn't fun in the moment, it might not have been the worst thing in the world for them to face a little adversity. They really hadn't, other than in-game adversity. They hadn't faced like season pressure a lot like last year's team did all season long, where they took gut punch after gut punch from the Rutgers half-court buzzer beater with Ron Harper Jr. and on. They spread their losses out evenly throughout the year, whereas this team, they didn't lose at all. They were 22-1, and then all of a sudden they lose 3 or 4. But at the end of the day, with some young freshmen on this team, maybe it wasn't the worst thing in the world for them to face a little adversity, because let's face it, when they get to March, even right now, this is when it gets the toughest. That's when teams and players start playing the tightest. So, having some trials and tribulations, and it wasn't like, in the Northwestern game, they could have easily won that game. Same with the IU game, and you got to give them a lot of credit, for battling back in that game. They easily could have won those, but to see them, have that adversity and then respond the way they did against Ohio State on Sunday was certainly refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. I don't got not much else right there, but it's a fun race. This is the Big Ten. This is what it's all about. I mean, it's tough to win on the road this year. When you look at KenPom, 67.3% of the games are won by the home team. And that's the 4th highest conference rate, and out of all the D1 conferences, there's 32 of them. Yes. So it's tough to win on the road too. I mean, you look at it with Maryland. Maryland's a top 3 team in the Big Ten at home. I don't think they've lost 2 home games all year, but they only have 2 true road wins, and that is at Louisville and at Minnesota.
Sure.
So there's that aspect too, for sure.
Jeff Parks asking in the chat, is Craig going to make it on? Our guy Craig Bowers, co-host of this show for the last few years. Yes, he is going to make it on, and he's in the chat talking smack. He says he's got a real job, unlike these two. Well, Joe he's a student. Me, on the other hand, I have 3 jobs right now, technically. But I'm able to come and go wherever I want on any of these jobs as I please. Unlike Craig. Craig's got to, adhere to some bosses that are a little more strict than mine, maybe. But we're excited to have Craig on it. And at the end of the day, when Zach said, practice is going to be wrapping up, and it's supposed to be a light day. So just give me a second. I was actually kind of hoping we could set the table a little bit, because with Craig on, he always does such a great job of, having a great perspective, having, been a part of this program as a fan and an alum for as long as he has. So I'm excited for Craig to be able to get on and be a part of this interview. And we appreciate everyone's patience. But Joe, maybe let's give these guys a little teaser on what we do on some of the post games. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have your chalkboard nearby? And maybe we can talk a little bit about, some of the things, if anybody has any questions in chat, to put Joe to task here. But let's talk about a little bit how teams try to defend Edey when they're bringing the double, and what Purdue does to counter that, and why it's so effective.
Yeah. No, that's put me on the spot, but I like it. I mean, there's generally just a couple rules that Purdue has when Edey does get doubled in the post, and oftentimes he's getting doubled right on one of the blocks, usually the left block, because that's where he goes. And so usually it's something like this, we'll say. Some sort of formation like this, we'll say, if this is the formation with kind of the 4 here, he usually has the ball. It's a throw in. This is usually first, and now first or Gillis. First or Gillis is coming, and they always cut to this opposite block. Right in here is where they end up. And so usually as this happens, their defender is the one that actually comes off and doubles. So then this defender has to come over and rotate. And so now basically as this happens, they rotate all over. And so Edey has to try to find if he can't find first, right? If this guy, if this low man right here does a good job of rotating over and taking first, then that means that one of these 3 guys is going to come over. Now, usually when that happens, we'll draw it as the double is there. Give me half a sec. So you have, first you have Edey with the ball here, you have first, and then usually it's something like this in that area. There might be a little different spacing, but usually you have, so you have one defender here, you have another defender there, you have a defender here. So that's 3, and that's 3 all within here because of just how dominant Edey is. Then usually the other 2 are playing the gaps, and maybe he's more here and kind of here. So then this defender is more here, and they're just playing the gaps. So now Edey has to read this defender. If this defender's there, then that, he did his job. He can't throw it to first. And then it's just kind of whichever one of these 3. And part of the thing with it too is, right, like, one, Edey has to be strong, and he has to make the right decision. Like, he has to be willing to make the pass. But also, like, part of it is these guards have to move. If they're stationary, that makes it a lot easier for these defenders to just kind of pick it apart. If they're moving just a little bit, now Edey can, kind of scan a little bit more and get to an open spot. But he's, part of it is, teams have been very rough with him, we'll say, especially over the past few games. Northwestern, Maryland did it. And when they're really bodying him in the post, that's when you see him kind of get off balance, and he's, thrown cross court kind of off one foot. And that's where he can get into trouble. But, when teams double like that, that's usually what happens. Now, one thing, if we want to keep going.
I was going to give an example before you move on to the next one. We'll give a little example of one of the best moments Zach had this year when they brought the double and how he reacted to it. Here it is. There it is.
That one's a little different, right? Like, Lawyer, that was the game winner, obviously, against Ohio State. Honestly, started Ohio State's demise, but they had Lawyer in that spot instead of First when I had drawn out, and that was because Purdue knew that they were going to double off that pass, and so now that leaves Lawyer open for 3 immediately right there. You still see Gillis; he's the one that dove to the basket. The 4-man always dives opposite block.
Michael Hogg in the chat says, Joe, one thing I've been wondering is why is it that Purdue doesn't do more back cuts when Zach is double teamed for Zach to pass the ball for a backdoor cut layup, which they did at times this year. And Michael, I will say, a couple times last game, first, they basically cut, in my opinion, and Joe can answer this for himself, but they cut every single game. It's just a matter of, if Zach can find it and get a clean enough pass to him. But he has shown throughout this season, and I can even pull up where he has dropped it off before. Here's one right here where here comes the cut on the backside, or that's to Mason. But he has done that several times with First and Mason. They're great at that. But what is your perspective to that question, Joe?
Yeah, it's a tough thing, right? Like, I'm assuming you mean beyond just because every single time that it's a double, the 4-man cuts to the opposite block. That's just every single time.
Yep.
Pretty much like there's very, very, very few scenarios where they don't. And so beyond that, the problem that probably becomes is just spacing, right? If you're bringing another guy into the paint, you're bringing another defender. And so now that's Edey, 2 defenders on him, somebody cutting, and then First already. And then there's 2 defenders, and that's, all within 15 feet of space. I'm sure there are times that it probably could happen where there's just like, there's a huge gap. And that's more just at that point, rules, and Purdue sticks to their rules. The painter has the 4-man cuts, the rest rotate, and you stick to them because it works for the most part. So I would say that's probably it too. Beyond that, it's just they have the rules and they just stick to them.
Yeah, we've got people listening from all over the country. Cape Coral, Florida. My dad recently just moved from there. He lived there for about 10, 15 years. People all over the country and all over the world. I know Craig was saying, where is Craig's brother watching the game from?
Nigeria.
Or not the game, the show from?
Nigeria.
We have listeners that are our viewers that are watching all the way from Nigeria. So Cape Coral, Florida, Nigeria, wherever. This is what we're doing here today. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we wait for Zach to wrap up and probably get cleaned up after practice and jump on. We weren't exactly sure when he would 100% be ready. So we just wanted to make sure we had crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's and got going and kind of set the table for Zach. So we appreciate everyone's patience. He will be coming here very shortly.
Very soon.
Everybody's excited to hear from him, but that's why we wanted to kind of set the table and maybe talk a little Boilers before we did. get into the interview. So let's reverse it now, Joe, with the chalkboard. And we talk about how he reacts on the offensive end, but let's talk about as Craig comes in, the way he defends, specifically, his job because Purdue always doubles the post and he has to really move around. And he's done such a great job of that this year, as far as doubling the post and then getting back into his position. Sometimes he gets left on an island. Even last game on the perimeter, I think they forced a shot clock violation on Ohio State, and Zach Edey was a big part of that. So I'm not sure where you want to go with how he, plays defense as far as his responsibilities, but maybe show the viewers kind of what his job is there. Hey, Craig.
Yeah.
So we're doing Joe's chalkboard, and then we'll give you your official hello. So he's breaking down Zach's responsibilities on defense. We're giving some of the viewers kind of a little taste of what we do on our post-game shows while we wait on Zach. And I'm so happy you made it before Zach came on.
We'll just start with pick and roll. And this is, Zach Edey's, it's called drop coverage. And so basically, this is his guy right here that's setting this screen. Ball handler is going to come off. His entire job, that's only 4 offensive players. Probably is going to be another one like over here. His entire job is to keep the ball handler in front and keep this roll man in front. So if this roll man is coming back here, he's coming back here. If the ball handler is really attacking, he's dropping back. His entire job is to keep the ball and the roll man in front. As when you see the lobs, there was one lob against Ohio State. That's just because ball handler, he kind of drags it out a little bit. Edey steps up, lob gets behind. As soon as, especially with Purdue's lack of size at the guards, oftentimes this is Braden Smith or Fletcher Lawyer. They're not stopping a 6'11" dude on a lob. They're just not. It's just not happening, because usually that's their responsibility, right? As a tagger on this roll, but if the roller gets behind Edey at all, it's an automatic lob. Against IU, it's going to happen. If Edey's on Trace and he gets behind, it's going to be an automatic lob. But what he's done really well is he just forces, the roll man is coming, and he just does a good job of forcing this ball handler right here and says, okay, take a slightly contested 17-foot shot. You're not going to get to the rim, and when you do, I'm going to be there and block it. You see guards try to go at Edey, and really, the guards that go straight at Edey are the ones that don't have success. If you can get him moving side to side a little bit, I think that's when you find more success. Or Walker, the one time, moved really well off ball and kind of dusted Edey. But the guards that go straight at Edey, thinking they could just ISO him and just clear out and go straight at the rim, they just don't have success really. It's very rare. So, and then the other part that you kind of mentioned is in the double. If he has to double team, so we'll say that it's like this, and then let's say Edey's here, and then something like this, and this guy has the ball. So he's going to wall up. Obviously, this defender, it's going to be First or Gillis most likely. Then Edey's job is to double on the catch. And usually it's going to be this defender has to drop down and cover for this pass right here. So sometimes it's where sometimes you see Purdue gets beat on the double and we think it's Zach Edey, where it's just this back guy just doesn't rotate down. And then, as that happens, usually this guy is going to come over and he kind of has to play too. But then also there's against IU a bit, Edey just would, especially against, Trace, there's a big that is a little bit more mobile. Edey will sometimes just get caught in here. And so if he's caught in here and not really doubling, it kind of makes the rotations weird. And that is also sometimes when you see a breakdown. But, when you have a 7'4" guy coming as the second guy doubling you, that's a tough task to make out of there.
Yeah, 100%. And he's just done a great job with his, accelerating his mobility this year. You talk about the jump. He's always been a dominant big. But to become a potential national player of the year, he was already very good at the things that he's now great at. And the acceleration of his game in all these little categories is why he's separating himself from the pack. And it's been really impressive to watch that all season long. They've talked about it so many times that he just started playing basketball, 5 years ago when David Jenkins Jr. was, a freshman in college playing college basketball. Zach was literally just picking up a basketball, for the first time in his life. And to watch him accelerate from that to now, can't be understated. And I understand it's been talked about ad nauseum, but you have to appreciate just how special that is. And I'm excited to ask Zach, the impact of that, that his mom didn't force him into basketball and let him kind of find his way to that, because you see so much nowadays, especially with guys his size, you don't have a choice. You're going to play this, and you're just going to learn to love it. And that's not what he did. And, who knows, maybe that's what makes him so great. Who knows what his trajectory would be had he started playing basketball in third grade. Matt Painter talks about how much of a sponge he is with just teaching him, because he hasn't learned all these different ways from all these different coaches. And maybe, that and playing all these other sports obviously has helped him so much with, his agility as a big man and his passing ability, his hands and feet and the footwork and everything that comes into what makes Zach Edey special. I don't think we would have the same Zach Edey if it wasn't it was fate, the way his career trajectory has turned into itself. So very fascinating story and excited to have him on. But now we have Craig Bowers on, my trusty co-host here on Boilers in the Stands. We wanted to give everyone a taste of a little bit of what we do here on the postgame shows with, Craig, with Joe's, breakdowns there. And we're happy to show everybody what we're all about. But Craig also is an integral part of what we do here. And he's the perspective, Joe's the X's and O's. Aiden, he's brings a coaching perspective. Joe's got the numbers, and Craig has the perspective, and he also tries to keep me in check when I start rambling too much like I am now. Craig, welcome back to the show. Your thoughts on the day and how excited are you to talk to one of the best players in the country?
Oh, I'm definitely excited to get a chance to talk to Zach when he comes on, and certainly there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to him about, and want to avoid some of the kind of cliche questions that have been repeated to him 100 times this year, and hopefully get into a few new things there. I really wanted to jump in and keep you in check. Earlier in the show, I was able to. I might have been looking down at my phone and watching the closed captioning when I shouldn't have been there for a little bit. But you mentioned something about this team going through some recent adversity and how that's good for them. But the team last year kind of went through it all season long at different points. But we had the exact same record. One game ago, Purdue last year and Purdue this year were at the exact same spot from a record standpoint. And really, in terms of wins and losses, the seasons have paralleled each other pretty closely. It's just been that number one rankings lasted longer because of the way it's worked out on other teams. So really a pretty similar trajectory in terms of wins and kind of when they got their losses, them being close losses, even though they did happen. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back and respond for the rest of the season going into the Big Ten tournament and then obviously into the NCAA tournament as well.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? Your point to that they had the same records. I mean, that obviously, like I said, the difference was that the losses were spread out evenly, whereas they came all in, 4 games. And it's just different levels of your feeling as a fan, and like we were getting spoiled with this team, even though they won a lot of close games. It was like, man, they have so much poise. They never seemed to falter. Every challenge that was thrown at them, they would pass the test. And then all of a sudden, they hit that brick wall that every team has to go through in the Big Ten. That's what Big Ten play is all about. So, yeah, it is kind of right where we were last year in a lot of ways. And, Brian Newbert, who does such a fantastic job for goldenblack.com and fighting through, his health issues and still giving us amazing coverage that he does in his own right. He said, maybe they're going to exercise some demons this year, because last year they weren't able to achieve the goals and they just missed on winning the Big Ten regular season title, winning the Big Ten tourney, obviously getting to a Final Four is the dragon that everyone wants to slay here. And maybe this team is going to be the one that exercises some of those demons. And first things first, winning their 25th Big Ten regular season championship, the most in all of the Big Ten conference. And then the other thing that just happened was the fact that they beat Ohio State, and now they have a winning record against every team in the Big Ten in the history of, their team. But let's bring on our special guest. He's just joining us now. Everyone's been waiting. Everyone in the chat's really excited to hear from him. So here we go. I'm going to play our intro video for our guy. Zach Edey, welcome to Boilers in the Stands. We really appreciate you joining us after practice here today. How you doing today, Zach? Can you hear us, Zach? We're getting the Blair Witch Project here with him walking through. He's giving us a tour of Mackey Arena. Can you hear us, Zach? This must be what it's like for his defenders. I think he's putting his earbuds in is what's happening.
There we go.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, he's giving us the look
He
like
just came
he
on to
does
stare at us.
some of the defenders that he gives, when he's playing
Nope.
in the post. How
Hello?
we doing? Yeah.
Tried to get
How
my
we doing?
earphone.
Oh,
I
you're
couldn't really
good,
hear
man. No, you're good, Zach. Appreciate you jumping on and giving us a little tour of Mackey Arena there. The insides
Yeah.
of Mackey Arena.
Yeah.
So, we appreciate you coming on, and I understand you probably get a million interview requests, and you're just wrapping up practice, and your schedule is insane, and it really means a lot to all of us and everyone watching right now. We have 200 live viewers tuned in, all diehard Purdue fans, and very grateful for your time. I just want to say that first and foremost, and we won't take advantage of it by any means. But Zach, when one picture that we came across on Boiler Diehards, Facebook page that Craig runs with over 10,000 Purdue fans was this picture here of you, hanging out at a scrimmage, 4 years ago. When you see that picture, do you remember what was going through your head back then? And when you look at that, like, what do you think now?
Yeah. That was actually my only ever time in Mackey Arena before I played in it. I never actually that was a closed scrimmage game. I never played in a actual Mackey game until I was on the court. But it was crazy. It was still a close scrimmage. There was still lots of fans. It was still loud. Obviously back then I probably needed like a haircut, but but other than that, I remember it was a really great experience.
Yeah, and when we had Sasha Stefanovic on, obviously you guys were good friends. He said, the first time you ever played, you'd driven all the way from Ontario and jumped right out the car and started practicing against the team. And he said, it was a work in progress. He was nice about it. And he said, I would have never believed that he would have turned into the player he has now. When did you realize that you could not only be, a factor on this team, but a force?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of like a game by game thing. I don't know if there was ever like a particular moment where I'm like, yeah, I can be a really good player on this team. But I think just kind of game by game, my confidence kind of grew. Every game through my freshman year, every game through my sophomore year, and then same thing this year. Like every game, just kind of trying to get better, and just kind of growing my confidence with myself.
For sure. And I don't mean to be rude. These are my co-hosts, Craig Bowers to my right, and Joe Jackson, who's a student, and he sits in the paint crew every game and is screaming along with all the other fans at Mackey Arena, as we all are. We try not to now that we sit on Media Row. So I want to throw it to Craig to let him line it up here. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I guess just thinking about the history of Purdue's program and specifically with big men, going through Isaac Haas and AJ Hammonds and Biggie Swanigan and back through Kyle Landry, and then Glenn Robinson as a power forward, all those years. And to think about the All-Americans that have come through the program, the last player that won National Player of the Year for Purdue was Glenn Robinson. So we're like 30 years removed from that. And for you to be in that conversation and just have your name tossed around as you think about the history of Purdue, I guess, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's cool. Obviously, like Purdue's, you see their history with the big people. You see their that was kind of main big reason why I came here because they've had so many 7-footers. They really could show me on my visit like how they would use it. You can just turn on the TV and see how they use the big people. Or the other coaches they may have to go like 5-10 years in the past to see how they might have used a 7-footer many years ago. So that was a big thing for me coming to Purdue. But then in terms of being like part of Purdue's history, I guess like I don't really think about that. It's kind of cool when you say it like that, but I think we still have a lot of season to go. We still have a very important stretch of games here that we have to close out, and there's a lot more important things to kind of think about right now. I think like Coach Payne kind of sometimes says like you can like look back and reminisce in like 20 years. Like there's no point in there's no point in doing that right now. Like, right now I'm trying to like live in this moment. I'm trying to really close out this stretch of games. I'm trying to like focus on our team goals. I'm not really worried about how I might fit into the history of this program.
Right.
Hey,
Fletcher.
Fletch. What up? That was cool. So go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, I was just when you look at like last year's team compared to this year's team, defensively, the big thing that stands out is pick and roll defense, right? Like it wasn't great efficiency last year, and now it's you're one of the top most efficient defensive teams in pick and roll. So what is it from you specifically? Like, what do you think? Was there something you worked on specifically in the drop coverage? Like, was it getting a step or two lower or higher, or is it just more just having more game reps that has made you more and more comfortable in that drop coverage defending pick and rolls?
Yeah, I think in the offseason I really worked on like my foot speed. I really try to work on like my mobility. I think that's really helped this year. But also just my understanding of like the coverage. Last year we kind of switched it up kind of at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year we were playing a certain type of ball screen defense, and we switched it to the drop kind of in the first few games. I had to almost learn it on the fly during the season last year. Whereas like this year I kind of had an off season to learn it, learn the spacing, learn how to like try to teams to take the shot we want. Like it's a very like it's a simple coverage, but it's very like it's a lot of different things you have to pay attention to. So I think just an off season to kind of learn the coverage really helped me.
When you talk about your defense, drop coverage, but also when teams, try to put you on an island. I mean, we saw it here in the last game where you guys were able to force a shot clock violation, and you were a big part of that. Defending a guy out on the 3-point line. How much have you taken pride in accelerating your game to be able to handle those kind of moments where a team tries to put you in a mismatch?
Yeah, I've always felt like I've been pretty decent in those things. I think this year I've really tried to put an emphasis on taking a lot of pride in guarding smaller people on the perimeter. Sometimes teams think might have a mismatch when those situations happen, but I like to take pride in kind of trying to get stops during those things where they feel like they have the matchup they want. I think I've been doing a pretty good job lately, but there's obviously a lot of stuff I still need to improve on.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it on one post-game show. It's almost funny because, a defender, when he's got you out on the 3-point line, he almost thinks he might have it, a moment of an advantageous moment, but then he pulls up for three, and it's not like normal centers where, you pull up, they have to change the trajectory of their shot unless you're giving them 5 steps, which you're typically not. You're a little closer than that. They still have to change the trajectory of their shot. So you almost kind of lull them into taking that, so I do find that interesting. When you talk about drop step, offensively, I think one thing that stood out this year is how you're able to drop to your right, to your right. And so often use that back shoulder to go up with it. I feel like that's been a big, evolution of your game this year, something that we can tell that you've been working on a lot. Is that the case?
Yeah, just really trying to work on that like left hand drop step, like you said, because I think it's pretty well known in the scouting reports that my first look is obviously going to my right hand in those hook shots, but teams can't take it away when I have a good drop step. They can't fully just cheat on my one shoulder because I can just drop step and go to the rim like that. So it forces team to play me honestly, even though um, they might know like what I'm trying to get to. Like they have to still play me honestly. They can't just completely cheat that one side because I have that drop step. You know, like the last game I got that dunk. You know, all season I've kind of gotten layups off it.
Yeah, pretty sweet picture there from our guys over at ISC Purdue there. Little Zach Edey. I saw somebody do a picture of Shaquille doing the same thing with his shoes out like that. So that's pretty slick there.
Yeah, I think I saw that too.
Hey, Zach, you're plus 12 on minutes this year compared to last year. Was there something in the offseason or going through that you really did increase your stamina, just workout wise, or were you always good on those minutes and it was just a matter of splitting time with Travion last year?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think last year I could have played more minutes. You know, a lot of games I didn't really feel like I was super tired. But obviously I had Travion beside me. I'm not going to complain about that situation. You know, when we'll have 40 minutes of either me or Travion on the floor. You can't. That's a good situation for Purdue.
Yeah.
So I had no complaints about the situation last year, but I always felt like I could play more minutes just conditioning wise. But in this offseason, I really worked on it. I really worked on running, like conditioning, trying to play open gym as much as possible, like running suicides, like just really trying to get my body underneath me. But it was a big adjustment this year. In my first few games, I was so sore after I played like 30 minutes. So, but kind of slowly but surely throughout the season, like my body's got used to it to the point like now where I can play 30 minutes. I'm like, I feel like I could play another game after.
So did they have an ice bath that's big enough for you then when you're real sore like that?
Yeah, it's like an ice tub. I don't even think it's a bath.
Yeah, they got you the right size tub. Now we got to get you the Nike shoes. Everybody's doing everything they can to pitch Phil Knight on this. You know, they're coming out with that Nike Air movie for Jordan. So, you know, they got some money in there. I'm sure they can afford to hook you up with a pair, but we'll do our best to get the word out too. Go ahead,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. You know, obviously with how dominant you are, teams are doubling, sometimes tripling team you. And one way that Purdue has seemed to get you the ball is, you know, whether you set like a pin down of sorts and then seal, or, you know, the Iverson cuts, or where you're sealing in the post already, just to create so much space for you. But with that, especially when you set, like if you set a pin down and seal in the center of the lane, you have 3 seconds roughly, you know, to set the screen, seal, catch the ball, and then go up and get a good shot still. So what, you know, at this point, I know it's probably just it's just second nature, but, you know, what kind of went into developing that of the ability to kind of just know your surroundings, know the timing, but still stay on balance and get a good shot over your defenders?
Yeah, you know, Paint, I think it's common knowledge that Paint, he just runs great stuff. 4 post-ups, you know, he gives me the ball with a lot of space a lot of times. So that really helps me. Obviously, kind of catching the ball, and different teams play different ways. Sometimes the same team will play different possessions different ways. Like sometimes they'll throw a trap, sometimes they'll leave you one-on-one, sometimes they'll do hard scrapes, like all within the same game. So you kind of have to catch the ball, look around. Sometimes you have to even look before you like go into your move, see if you can go quickly. So it's just like kind of that's something that's developed just kind of slowly but surely, just through game reps, just being able to read the defense, being able to know what shot I should take and know when to try to get to my shot and when to just pass it out.
So talk about, you know, playing off of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, you know, 2 freshmen that you just kind of had to, you know, learn on the fly this summer with. I mean, Braden was injured, you know, this summer. So I'm sure it took a moment of adjustment with those guys. I mean, they have just been incredible for freshman standards this season. And I know you guys as a freshman class with you and Jaden and Brandon Newman and you guys came on like with your hair on fire, but these guys have too. What's it been like to play with those guys and how comfortable they are kind of coming around the corner when you're setting the screen for them?
Yeah, you know, they're great. They have all the confidence in the world. We have all the confidence in the world in them. You know, like you said, they're freshmen. They don't really play like it a lot of times. You know, sometimes in the game, we'll be looking for them to make some plays sometimes. So it's really kind of special the way they've handled this season, and not just the season, but kind of everything that the season's brought with it, like all the pressure, all the expectations, all the everything. It's not easy, and especially for a freshman. But I'm really proud of the way they've handled it.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, with you going through this season, and there's so much on your shoulders, and then there's another 7-footer sitting behind you that's redshirting this season. What's kind of been your role as now an upperclassman, dealing with somebody that's going through the redshirt process and trying to develop to be that next big time 7-footer for Purdue?
Yeah, just kind of trying to help him out every day in practice. He really goes hard in practice. He helps me out. I go hard in practice. I help him out. So it's just kind of going against each other, trying to give each other as many good reps as possible in practice. Whenever he has a question, he'll ask me. I'll try to answer it as best as I can. So I'll just ask him about everything, and he's really good at listening. He's really good at trying to do things. I think he's really made a lot of improvements this year.
Yeah, I got more of a fun one here, and I assume you aren't really able to peek at the jumbotron too much, but whenever your mom gets up there on the jumbotron, crowd erupts. Do you think that in Mackey Arena alone, do you think you're a bigger celebrity or her right now?
I don't know. It's tough. People love her. I honestly think she could probably run for mayor and win it at this point.
Oh yeah.
Like people really love her in Lafayette. I think she has more followers on Twitter than I do right now. So it's just funny. People really love her, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Does she ever talk some smack about that she's got more followers than you, or?
A little bit sometimes. She says her Twitter game's good.
Well, when you got interviewed by Field of 68 and Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster, and you signed. I mean, they highlighted it on social media how you took the time to sign for every single kid, not just kid, but even man, woman, and child that was excited to meet you and have a quick moment with you. And you took your time with every single person. And I know how much that's appreciated from Boiler Nation. I watched Steph Curry do that. That's something he does every pregame routine, and he's the best player in the world. So, to see you do that as well, I mean, it's not an obligation, and I don't think anybody would take it personal if you wanted to go in and get your rest. But to show that, loyalty to the fan base that loves you so much, I think means a lot. But your mom certainly is famous, but I don't know if she's at sign my baby level famous yet. Yeah. Was that the first baby you've signed? This was a pretty
at the time it was. I actually signed one. I think maybe 2 games ago, or maybe last game. So now I've signed 2 babies so far.
Well, you did once upon a time a couple years ago take a picture with my daughter. That's my daughter Addison. There, yeah. She's a little taller, so she's catching up to you. But we certainly appreciate all the time you take with the fans. But when you talk about how you came up, that's something I wanted to talk about with your mom. They talked about in the journey that for Big Ten Journey did a special on you and how she said she didn't force you to play basketball when you were younger. And it's been well documented that you played other sports, hockey and baseball, and you excelled at those things, but I'm curious, like your thoughts on how important that was to where you are now, because to me, it seems, I don't know if we'd have the exact same Zach Edey if not for that process. And so many parents nowadays, especially someone that's as tall as you, they're going to say, hey, you got to play basketball and learn to love it. And your mom didn't do that. She took a totally different approach, and look at what that's turned into for you personally. So I was just wondering your perspective on that approach that your mom took with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Obviously, she was a basketball player growing up, so that's probably pretty tough for her to have a tall kid and not play basketball. But she accepted it. She always knew that as long as I was playing sports and I was staying healthy and I was active, that was completely fine by her. It didn't matter what sport that was, what level of success I was having in that sport. As long as I was happy and healthy, that's all that was important to her. So that really helped me. I don't think if I was forced into basketball, I don't think I would love it as much as I do now. I think it'd be tougher. Like when other people are making decisions for you, it's a lot harder to accept those decisions sometimes. So I'm not sure if I would love basketball as much if I had been forced to play it since I was 6 years old. I'm not sure if I would be as good of a basketball player if I was forced to play since I was 6 years old, because I think my sports background really helps kind of help shape me into the player I am right now for just various like little things.
So you would encourage other players, other kids growing up, to play other sports, obviously, right? Because it just seems like nowadays, when I was a kid, you played all sports. You played basketball, football, baseball, whatever the season was, that's what you played, soccer. So you would probably encourage other kids, I'm assuming, to not just stick to one sport like a lot of schools are trying to emphasize to some.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I basically played probably every sport under the sun at some point in my life. I've golfed, I've done curling, I've done soccer, like just random sports, volleyball. Um, so I think that really helped me, just kind of from a coordination standpoint, and also just like loving sports standpoint. I think that really, really was something that helped me kind of grow into the player I am right now.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, as your minutes went up, like I said earlier, plus 12. One of the things that amazes me the most is that your amount of fouls committed per game actually went down, while your amount of blocks doubled from last season. What kind of went into that process for you to be able to add all those more minutes, but actually reduce the amount of personal fouls you were called for, and the amount of blocks that you've been getting this season?
Yeah, just kind of stay vertical. I think that's something that really came as a product of my kind of ball screen coverage, me being better in ball screen coverage and understanding the drop coverage more. I won't pick up those fouls for being out of position in my coverage. I'll try to stay between the ball and the rim. Just kind of simple stuff. When I wall up, I try to go straight up. I try to not to jump into people. Make people score over me. Kind of, there's no point a lot of times, sometimes almost in jumping. Just kind of put my arms up, make people score over me, and that way I don't pick up fouls. I think also kind of just with my role on the team this year, I know that I can't really get into foul trouble. I think that kind of dooms our team sometimes when I'm forced to kind of to go to the bench. So my teammates have told me that, my coaches have told me that. They'll say like after if I pick up an early foul in the first half, for example, they'll be like, "Hey, be smart. Like just give up a layup if you need to, just to stay in the game." Um, so kind of a lot of support from my teammates, a lot of support from my coaches, and then just kind of learning different parts of the game to avoid fouls.
That's obviously been a big talking point with the fan base over the last week and across the Big Ten in a lot of ways. I noticed in the post-game presser when a reporter asked you guys about it, you guys were quick to say, enough. We're not talking about the refs anymore. Has that become a little bit of a rally cry for you guys to not focus on the officiating and focus on what you can control now?
Yeah, like we're just out there to play basketball, obviously. We're not out there to referee the game. I don't want to be a referee, so I'm not trying to referee the game. I think we'll leave that to Paint. He can kind of deal with the refs. He can address the refs. Some of us, like I have a personal relationship with a lot of the referees, so I can go up and talk to them like myself. I don't need to like kind of sit in the media and tell the media what I feel like is wrong. I can go up and kind of talk to them, and a lot of them are cool. Like a lot of them you can just have conversations with, and they'll understand. So that's kind of the approach that I like to take. I feel like just kind of going to the media. Like I wouldn't want the referees to go to the media and start talking about me. So like I'm not going to go to the media and start talking about the referees.
Yeah, we hear you there. And this was earlier in the year, and it didn't count, but it counts in our hearts. That was a nasty dunk there. One of many here at Mackey Arena. Just a couple more, Joe. What do you? We want you to be able to get home and enjoy and kick back and relax because it's obviously a big weekend ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, just there's been a couple comments in the YouTube section in that talking about free throws and just your improvement in general, but also one thing I've noticed is like I assume it's the rim you're staring at in between free throws. Like if when you're at the line, you are just staring at the rim. The only time you really take your eyes away is kind of when you receive the ball. And it's almost like you're mean mugging the rim, to be honest. But is that just something in your however long you've been playing now, 5-6 years, whatever it is? Like, has that always been the case? Is that like somewhere along the line, the coach is like, hey, you should probably do this? And then just the touch in general it takes at your size to shoot as well as you are from the free throw line.
Yeah, I remember ever since freshman year, like Coach B would always say, like, like when I'm at the free throw line. There's no point. Like don't look down unless you drop some money. Like just look at the rim, stare at the rim. And that's something I've really tried to do. I took it to. He obviously meant when you catch the ball, like look at the rim, but I took it to another level. Like before I even catch the ball, I'm just like you said, I'm mean mugging the rim almost.
Yeah.
I think it kind of helps me focus, gives me something to focus on, and kind of like find that like little zen spot before I shoot my free throws.
All right. Another fun one from the chat here. More physical, Canadian hockey or Big Ten basketball?
Canadian hockey, but Big Ten basketball is definitely physical.
Like you said on Field of 68, you're wearing a couple scars for the rest of your life from it. I mean, some of them are from practice, right?
Yeah, Travion, the big one on my arm, it was actually from Travion, like my freshman year. It was during one of those closed scrimmages. But those at that time they were really close. Like, you couldn't even have media at those in my freshman year because of COVID. But yeah, he got me pretty bad. And then I got one on my other arm, or on the same arm from Northwestern.
Anything from Mason? Because it seems like every Purdue player we interview has
Mason
some sort
only
of
gives out
scar
black
or
eyes.
black
Yeah.
eye from-
Yeah, I mean, I got little scratches all over my arms and hands. I've had people actually ask me if I have a cat just because I have scratches everywhere. I just look like little scars all over my hands. But I don't know if I've ever got anything from Mason.
Well, that's probably the best thing about you being so tall is you can avoid those Mason elbows down low when he gets a rebound at practice. Karen asked in the chat, what's your normal pregame meal?
So the night before we play, I always have sushi. That's like been my thing since freshman year. I'll get sushi on the road. I'll get sushi here. And then before the game, we'll just kind of whatever Purdue's serving. A lot of times, I'll try to get some pasta if they don't have pasta. Like I'll try to get some carbs in, but other than that, it's just a lot of food.
Yeah, I heard you talk about the sushi on a different podcast, and you listed off some places that you go to. I didn't hear you mention Sushi Don. Have you not tried that yet?
I think Sushi John's solid. I just like some of the other places a little more.
Okay. I'm a Katana guy too, so
Katana's really, really good.
You ever go down to Fort Myers Beach, I'll send you to the right spot down there. There's a really good spot down there. Maybe you can get down there one day. Another one, Joseph asks, who's the best Yuki player on the team? It's
Euchre.
I'm sorry, Euchre. Euchre. Is it Fletcher?
Honestly, unbiased opinion, like it's me. I win every time. Like me and Ethan.
That's not what Jared Harder said.
Okay, well, Harder's not on the team anymore, so it doesn't count. Me and Ethan, we've been playing with each other since like freshman year, like as a team. So probably me and Ethan, we win a lot. Other than that, we don't really play like you said. We'll play against Harder a lot. Harder's pretty good. And then we'll play against Jared Walburn, who's one of the walk-ons last year's GA this year.
Yeah, we just had Jared on recently. And then Ethan, didn't he say that you guys were taking Isaiah's money last year too in some of these?
Probably. I don't think we played Zay too much. We just had some poker the other night. I did pretty well on that.
There you go. A couple more, I promise. Carl McNulty, there's 250 people watching live, and we really appreciate you giving us all this time, Zach. One day I'll make it up to you, but Carl wants to know what's your major and what do you want to do other than basketball?
My major is OLS, and other than basketball, I think I've always wanted to like start a business. I don't know why. That's been my thing. That'd be really cool.
Any kind in mind, or just kind of still feeling
spot.
that food?
Yeah, for sure.
Do have a food truck?
Oh, there you go. Those street tacos.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, he can come back to West Lafayette, open up his own sushi place.
There you go.
Brand it Zach Edey Sushi, and there you go.
I like
Make
that.
some
That's
bank.
a good idea.
Yeah, Carl had another good one. Do you watch the NBA? Anybody you followed as a kid dreams of playing of a certain team? I'm a Bulls fan too, so that's why I had to pull this question up. I'm a Michael Jordan disciple. Got to watch all 6 of his NBA championships. So any player that you looked up to? Somebody else in the chat also mentioned that they see a lot of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in your game. Are you a historian in that way as far as watching tape from older players or anybody that stands out to you as players you looked up to more recently?
Yeah, I mean that's a great compliment.
It's a pretty
That they
good
see
one.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in me. He's one of the greatest players of all time. I don't know if I'm there yet, but um, I don't really look at. First of all, I don't really watch too much NBA. I watch a little bit of NBA, but I mainly stick to watching college basketball a lot. Just because I'm in it, I find it interesting. You know, we'll see other teams. So I watch a lot of college basketball. I watch a little bit of NBA, mainly the playoffs. Um, but there's not really a single player I look at. Obviously, you watch Embiid and you watch Jokic, and you're like, yeah, those guys are like really, really, really good. But I
Yeah.
don't know if there's anyone I really model my game after in particular.
Yeah, well, it was fun watching you last year go up against Kofi Coburn. Those were some of the best battles I've ever seen personally, head to head. Final question from the chat, and it's a good one. What legacy do you want to leave? Would you say you want to leave when your days are done at Purdue?
I want to be a player that came in, was all about winning, won a lot of basketball games, and just kind of like led through hard work.
Yeah. The hardest hitting question of the day. Have you watched The Last of Us yet?
No, I've heard it's really, really good.
Dude,
I need to watch it.
It's so good. I can't stop talking about it. We were like halfway through the first half, and I was like, Craig, you watching The Last of Us yet? He's looking over me like, what are you like? What the game is going on?
I had mentioned it to you when I started watching it, and then you come at me like you just found this show that was so amazing, and I'm like, dude, I've been watching it since the beginning.
Zach. I'm just letting you know it's great.
I haven't played the video games though. That's all right.
No, it's not. It's not a requirement. I hadn't played them either. It's an amazing show. We're 5 episodes in. We're gonna watch 6 tonight, me and my wife. So really fired up. But Zach, obviously we know you guys have big goals ahead of you here in the next few weeks and coming in March. We're certainly excited for everything, and we know you're capable of everything that is on those list of goals. And I think I speak for all of us here when we say that. Again, we really appreciate your time. The one last request I have from you while we have you, because I'm never going to bug you again, and you were so gracious about accepting this interview. Ethan, gave us one of these to start our show.
This is Ethan Morton from Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
And we had Sasha do it too, but it took him like 3 takes to do it. So we were really hoping that we could get one from you so we can start our shows with you sometimes, introing us. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Well, here was Sasha's. And so it's basically the same thing. It'd be,
I'm Sasha Stefanovic, former Purdue men's basketball guard, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Our show name is Boilers in the Stands. You can say it however you want. I'll give you the countdown.
Well, what was that first part? I kept muting it.
Just
basically
say
your name.
Yeah.
I'm Zach Edey, Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands. And then we'll let you go to bed or go hang out and eat dinner. Thank you. All right. So
good.
in 3, 2, 1.
I'm Zach Edey with Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
Okay. So we're called Boilers. The network is I'm Brags.
Okay. I just saw it in the top corner.
No, and I appreciate it. That's attention to detail, and that's what makes you such a great player. And it's okay because Sasha, it took 3 takes. So you're only 2, and you beat out Sash, and then you get bragging rights on him. So it's Boilers in the Stands, but I really appreciate that because I'll use that for going forward. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
It's Zach Edey with Purdue Men's Basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Boom. Thank you, Zach. Really appreciate all your time. Go watch The Last of Us. Eat some sushi. Watch The Last of Us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much for all your time. I know everyone in the chat and us here really appreciate it. And, knock them dead here the rest of the year. We're going to be rooting from the stands.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much, Zach.
Boiler
No
up.
problem.
That is
Yes,
Zach
sir.
Edey, our guy. That was really, really good stuff. Probably pushed it about as long as we could. We wanted to try to get as many questions from the chat in. That was terrifying to have him do it again, but I had to do it. We're rebranding a little bit here. It's always going to be.
That was great, but
Yeah.
Hey, and like I said, I told Sasha that he's the guy I get to throw under the bus for that part of the interview every time, where I just say that it took him 3 takes. I think it only took 2, but I embellish it by saying 3, and that, disarms them a little bit, and as long as you beat out Sasha, then you're fine, so yeah, it was terrifying to ask him to do it, but I had to do it because, Brags in the Stands is what this has been for years, but now that people are starting to understand what we do here, and we're really putting a focus on Boilermaker basketball and doing these post-game shows and interviews this season, we want to start calling these shows, when we're talking Boilers basketball, Boilers in the Stands, so everyone kind of knows who we're all about. So please hit that like button if you're heading out of here. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everyone joining here today. We do post-game shows after every single game. We're going to be live as soon as the game's over against IU on Saturday. We're at the game, so it takes us a minute to get to our stations. For road games, we are
not
live
right after.
Yeah, but for road games, we are live immediately following the games. So we're doing our best for you to give you all the coverage we possibly can. We have Walter Jordan joining us Thursday night, Purdue basketball legend who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame here over the weekend and was at the game on Sunday. So make sure you tune in on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to have a Purdue IU preview show with Brian Tonsoni, who does great work with Assembly Call, a IU basketball podcast. And also he does work with Delphi Bracketology, where he does extensive breakdown of, what the bracket may look like and what the seeds will be. So tune in for that tomorrow night, and then Walter Jordan on Thursday night, then a post-game show on Saturday. We even might meet up somewhere before the game on Saturday. There's some tentative plans for that. So we got a lot of stuff coming up here for all of you here this week. So please hit the like button and subscribe. We're driving towards 1,000 subscribers for Boilers in the Stands. So appreciate it. What did I do?
I love how you drop stuff like in the show that some of us don't know about. Like I knew about that, but Joe didn't. Joe's like, what? We're meeting up.
We might. Habitual Boiler DM me and was like, we should all go somewhere and meet up before, like a Boilers Twitter hangout. I was like, sure. Yeah. He's like, I might rent the top floor at Harry's. I'm like, what are you, Burt Reynolds? Like, that sounds expensive. He mentioned that. So I was like, yeah, maybe we will. Maybe we'll go buy an old brokerage brewery. Who knows? I don't care. Let's go hang out. I'm excited for it.
Just remember, Aiden can't get into those places.
True.
Oh, that's true. The young buck.
That's okay. He'll grow up someday, and then he can come.
Yeah, so I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor here over at Fanbags Cornhole. Get our running board here. So that Zach Edey interview was brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs, or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole. There they are, Fanbags Cornhole. Craig just texted me that people leaving the chat like they're running from a zombie apocalypse, like it is The Last of Us going on here, and that's okay. Hey, this was an afternoon matinee with Zach Edey. It was short notice, had little time to kind of promote it, so this many people. It just shows the intrigue Zach has to this program and this fan base. 250 people at one point watching live. I'm sure there'll be plenty more that watch later. And honestly, like I felt like in that interview, we got every inch out of that as we possibly could. I don't think there was one point that we didn't get to ask him, and you just never know because you don't want to take up too much of their time, but certainly seemed like he enjoyed it. I know all of us hope he comes back next year, but at the end of the day, we just want what's best for him. And if he ends up in the NBA, I think everyone's going to be happy for him and root him on, even if it means one less year of the Zach attack here at Mackey Arena. So, man, that was just a really fun interview, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was great. I got to pick his brain about a bunch of different things. Dive into the past a little bit more, and he's a good interview. He's not too long winded, but also he gets the point and the details across. And I learned a lot, so it was fun.
Yeah, and just a lot of insight there from him, and on some topics that haven't been worn out on the kind of more national podcast about how things are looking and how he's developed over time and how people around him have developed as well. So really, certainly appreciate him coming on and spending some time.
And we got to ask about The Last of Us. I didn't know if I was going to.
You hadn't even watched it. You haven't stopped talking about it since you started watching it.
So I watched it all the way through on Saturday by myself. Then me and my wife have now ran through it all again because I wanted Jenny to watch it.
Yeah.
Now she's caught up. Now we're going to watch episode 6 tonight. So
yeah, the scene on the horse is so good tonight.
Can you not with the spoiler alerts? Good Lord. I hate that. Oh, that's okay. But again, we got a lot planned for this week. I think that's going to wrap it up. We wanted to stick it to just the interview, and then we ended up doing a solid 20, 25 minutes before Zach came on. We got to see Joe's chalkboard. So, for those of you that are still tuned in that are new to it all,
everybody brings up it's not actually a chalkboard, which is fair, but
do not care. We're not going to call it the dry erase board segment. But yeah, this is what we do here, and we're excited for all the newcomers. Make sure you get comfy because we're going to be doing a lot of these. We're going to be doing these all the way until early April. You got that right, Boilers fans. We got a big next 6-8 weeks ahead of us. We're going to be doing post-game shows for every single game. We're going to be doing interviews like you saw today, talking to some former players. We're hoping that we can get Dakota Mathias on here in the future. Like I said, Walter Jordan's coming on here. Brandon McKnight was at the game on Sunday. Talked to him about coming on. He's very excited about coming on. So maybe even after the season, talk to some of the Boilers of the future. But we've got a lot of plans and a lot of stuff in store for all you guys to keep giving you great Boilermaker content. But it's going to be hard to top today. We started the year with Matt Painter, and now we've worked all the way to Zach Edey. So this has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate both of you and Aiden, even though Aiden's not here with us today. This has been a fun journey so far this year. We're going to keep it rolling for Boilers fans. And that's it. So the Midwestern goodbye.
I didn't even get to go to the Midwestern goodbye. You were fast today, Greg. That's good.
That was a pretty good ramble right there. You could have pulled it up with. So
I was reading the chat. There's people that are realizing they played in each other's backyards in like the 1980s together and stuff that haven't seen each other since then. So it's a pretty amazing little story.
Brad Prather asks Braden. We would love to have Braden on. We talked to him early in the year, and our schedules just didn't line up. We're definitely going to get him on at some point, but we're going to start getting more and more cautious with current players here as we get to the end of the year. This felt like a good spot to squeeze Zach in with them getting the full week off. Not necessarily off; they're doing homework and practicing all the way leading up to this IU game, but. It starts to get tight here down the stretch, and they have, they have championships to win. As much as we appreciate, all these guys coming on this year, we had Ethan Morton on earlier this year for an hour, and I encourage anyone to go back and watch any of those interviews if you haven't seen them with Fletcher Lawyer or Ethan Morton, David Jenkins Jr., Jared Harder, a former Purdue manager, as we mentioned him on the show, Jared Wolbrin, an assistant grad coach. all of them are very, very good interviews, and we talked a lot of big picture stuff. So go back and watch them. Like I said, we started the year with Matt Painter. It was a really good interview. So there's my Midwestern goodbye. Big night tonight. You got IU playing Michigan State. Then you got Illinois playing Northwestern on Thursday. So some things that Boilers fans are going to be locked in on. So it was actually perfect that we had Zach on early than later like we normally do. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Because now we have reached the portion of the show where I won't shut up.
That's my final thought right now underneath.
Let you guys go get food.
For anybody that was here the whole show, I did check, and Julia Edey has 500 more followers on Twitter than Zach. So,
oh man, I almost looked it up when he said that, and I was like, it just can't be. Damn, that's funny.
She's a full blown celebrity in Mackey, like in West Lafayette. Period.
That's no joke, man. That was a great line. We got to clip that when he said she could run for mayor and win. I mean, he's right, but that was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
We got to get her on too if she wants.
And then a little Fletcher Lawyer cameo today too. That was funny.
Dipping in.
Everybody's trying to get on Boilers in the stands. That's where the action's at here this year, ladies and gentlemen. So Matt Painter approves of this message. Make sure you follow Feed the Post, Purdue Basketball Podcast with Joe Jackson and Aiden Kuntz. They're doing great work over there. So make sure you follow those guys at Feed the Post _ on Twitter and everything they're doing. So that's it. Follow Craig Bowers. Go to his Facebook page, Boiler Diehards. They got over 10,000 Purdue fans, a private group. So it's Purdue fans only. They're vetted through, talking Purdue sports all day, every day. Follow Feed the Post. Follow Joe Jackson on Twitter. He's doing breakdowns after every single game at Joe Jackson, at Joe _ Jackson 2210. He's doing great film breakdown. And follow us on at Brags and Stands and everywhere else you can find us, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everything else. So that wraps things up. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps things up for today. Enjoy your night. Let's hope some good fortune here goes the rest of the way. Tune in tomorrow for our Purdue IU preview. Walter Jordan on Thursday. But make sure you always boiler up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you later.